of no boundaries. Again, we are multi-streaming, so you can watch it on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Now, I have it set up, we have it set up here so that I can see questions coming in from Facebook. And but today I wanted to talk about speed kills, and there's one of the reasons. One of the main reasons I wanted to talk about is I watch a lot of other guitar players. You know, I love it. And the thing that I'm most encouraged about, hello, Cynthia, how are you? I can see the comments now. We have a cool setup. Hey, Denny, how are you? Congratulations on your 10-year anniversary. And I saw that today. And but getting back to speed kills, I've seen so many comments about, you know, where guitar players are posting they're doing 300 BPM, 340 BPM, and I'm going to clear up a little bit of what's going on versus, because I had people say, well, dude, you're only like doing 220, bro. What about 300? Well, here's the difference. I'm watching people doing 340. They're playing eighth notes. Eighth notes. Okay, you know what that translates? In my world, 170 BPM. I don't even start warming up at 170. It's too slow. I start at 175. So my 220 playing 16th notes is the equivalent of most players playing 440 BPM. It's a little bit different because I look at it as a writer. If you're playing 340 and you're playing eighth notes, why? You would have that BPM because 16th notes aren't that fast when you write them. You know, it's, you know, I mean, a group of, you know, if you're writing 32nd notes or 64th notes, then you have to ask yourself, this tempo is too slow. Then you can double it. But when you're doing eighth notes at 340, come on, man. Don't brag about that. Bring it down to a normal time signature, our normal BPM, and do 16th notes. Okay, somebody said, where's my Lamborghini? Oh, do I have the answer? I do, Joey. Listen, the Lamborghini has been given to you. Why? You got the keys. You got the keys to the Lamborghini, but we can't make you drive. You have to drive the car. See what Joey said? I gave you the keys. It's up to you to drive the car. Okay, now, I want to, before we start, I want to do a few shout outs. I see a lot of people online here. I want to shout out to Tanya. I want to give a shout out to Alexis. I already said hi to Denny. I want to say hi to Brett. Brett is a great inspiration. You should check out his Facebook page. It's pretty amazing. And I want to say hi to Nick, Roxana, and hello to you, and Miss Metal, Sasha. And there's a lot of other people too, Jonathan, Christian, Roberto, the list goes on and on. Now, I want to talk, I'm going to go in depth about speed kills, because one of the things that I can say, and I think people are not stupid, you know, if I've learned anything in life, one, I like people. Two, I like to help. I truly, genuinely want to help you. And three, I've showed you everything that I can, and I don't hold back what I know as far as music theory, but applying it to guitar and applying it in a real world situation. And it's like the BPM, because hey, listen, if somebody wants to say they're playing 340 and they're playing eighth notes, look, at more power to them. I'm not criticizing that. I'm stating that in legit music, if you were going to write, if I was writing a song, there's no way I would put that tempo 340. There's just no possible way. I would reduce it in half, because 16th notes aren't that hard to write. So when you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, when you go, you can put the tempo at 1,000. It doesn't matter. It's the note duration. It is the value of the note that you play that determines the speed, not the tempo. Yeah, I mean, if you're playing I'm 1,000 BPM, it's the fastest ever. Are you out of your mind? Yes. And so, but what are you playing? Are you playing whole notes, half notes, quarter notes? what is the note duration? Now, the way I look at it, I judge it by 16th notes. And see, a lot of people will do triplets. So instead of, like, for example, that's not 16th note triplets. Take away one count. So again, when you use these tempos of 300, 400, and if you're doing 16th notes, I'm like, okay, bro, or broette, fine, that's amazing. But a lot of times it's not. It's eighth notes or maybe triplets. So it does sound fast, there's no question about it. But just try playing Freight Train alone, the Nitro song. That's 200 BPM, but I'm playing 16th notes like a machine. And so when you hear like, and you hear the, it just sounds wickedly fast. Why? The duration of the notes, the 16th notes. It's like, it's fast. On a classical metronome, you rarely see anything what they call presto because, you know, andante. They use Italian terminology, they use Italian words. And when you hear presto in Italian, it's fast. But in classical and orchestral music, fast is 200 to 205 BPM. Now, granted, you know, we're in the 21st century and, you know, all things are relative. Everybody wants to break the last record. So, but realistically, when I play 220, rarely in any piece of music do I ever need that type of speed. I don't. I've showed it weeks on end where I can play 16th notes very easily at a 220. But see, 220 in my world, in a lot of other people's world, is 440. Dude, I can play 440 beats per minute. This is death by speed. Speed kills. Okay? But I still look at it, you know, one of the things, that's why I like to practice to drum grooves and a BPM is it doesn't lie. You know, if you hear something like doom, 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 that just doesn't lie. If you're hearing this, you know, 200, 220, and you're playing 16th, that's it. It is what it is. There's no clouding the issue. Now, somebody wrote about the rock and roll Woodstock thing, Sao Paulo. Yeah, Sao Paulo in Brazil. I love Brazil. I have a 10-year visa to Brazil. Now, I haven't talked much about the guitar, but Sawtooth Guitars sponsors my show. So does ChromaCast and GoDpsMusic Live. Now, they have a 30% discount on this ES series. Now, one of the things that, if you know my career, you know I have designed a lot of signature guitars over the years, and I've had best-selling signature models. What we tried to do with Sawtooth, and we've accomplished, not tried, we did. I love that thing in Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke is on Yoda's planet. And Luke's ship is in the bog. And if you're from Britain, you know what the bog is. Something went offline. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Okay, anyway, so we are off in the bog. Luke's ship is in the water. R2-D2's full of muck from Yoda's planet going, and Luke has to leave the planet to save his friends. So he tries to use the Force. And all of a sudden he starts to raise the ship, and you see the water bubbling, and it crashes in the water. And then Yoda goes, with those 3 little fingers like this, and he goes like it's like a hawk and a loogie almost, like he's like, and then he lifts the ship, and he moves it to the ground. And Luke said one of the main things that I live by, he goes, Master, I tried. And what did Yoda say? That is why you failed. You don't try, you do. You either do or do not, in the words of Yoda, but it's Angelo Batio's version of it. That's how I live. I either do or do not. Do you do it or you don't? If I don't like gray areas in my life, whether it comes to guitar, whether it comes to my personal life, whether it comes to business. If I don't have a clear vision of what's going on, I don't understand. And that's where a lot of people get confused. And it's like, and that's why I'm telling you about the BPM. See, I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm explaining in a musical, theoretical sense and mathematical sense what they are doing versus what they are claiming to do. Because, it's great to say, dude, I've been doing like 400 BPM, bro. Oh! But 9.99% of the, 9.99 times out of 10, they are playing eighth notes or they're playing triplets, which is not a pure 16th. If you want to judge speed, how about Flight of the Bumblebee? Those are note durations that are identical. When I played the solo from Freight Train, almost everything was 16th notes, arpeggios into. I mean, these things are flying at only 200. But see, my 200 BPM at 16th notes is a lot of people's nowadays 400 BPM. So when I hear 340 and I watch somebody play eighth notes, again, that's 170 to me. That's not even my fast zone. That's not even what I begin to warm up at. When I'm feeling tired, I warm up at 175 BPM. When I start and I feel more in the zone, I usually start at 185, go to 190, 195, 200, 205, 210, 220, 230, 240, 245. 245 is flying. It is flying. That's 490 beats per minute, according to many people online right now. I mean, I defy a lot of guitar players to play that fast. Now, sure, there are some that can do it, and I look at it. I'm not here to disparage or criticize anyone, but I'm just saying this is how my thinking. If you think in 16th notes, you get a true barometer of your speed. And that's why I'm telling you this, to help you, not to criticize other players. I'm just saying this is the real world of speed. Judge it in 16th notes, then consider your BPM. Because that will give, it's easy to think, bro, I'm super fast, dude. Okay, listen, he's super fast. He's playing 340 BPM, but wait, it's only 8 notes. Robert and Joe are like, what? Pourquoi in French? Why? And so in our thinking, it's 170 BPM. Now I'm going to just take a guess. Like. It's in the 170s, maybe 175. It's fast, but it's not anywhere near like. It's nothing like that. And so when you think like that, it helps you to be a better player because it gives you a realistic assessment of where you're at. Now, speed is not the end. But, it's my saying that I've used over and over. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And one of the things that I have learned about this, I am a living example of speed kills. A living example. You just can't fake playing like this. There's a lot of footage of me playing in concert with my double guitar. Nobody, when people say, oh, dude, it's pre-recorded, people know my career. You can look back on videos 30 years. Okay, so it's documented. There's not cheating involved. And I live, I practice what I teach, not what I preach. I practice what I teach, and I'm here to help. And speed kills still. I don't care what anybody says. it is the definitive program on being better at techniques, because a lot of teachers will say you should apply the techniques to music. That's true, but that's not the first step. See, that's where I think many teachers get it wrong. The first step is learning the technique. Then you apply it to the music. And so because I watch a lot of players say, well, I'm going to show you this riff, but I always apply this to music. Well, of course you want to apply it to music. What the heck are you learning it for? That's the given. But that's not how you start. That's not how the great classical pianists learned how to play. When you learned how to play fast, you didn't just play music like Bach's 2- and 3-part inventions, although that's part of it. But you learned exercises to develop the specific technique you wanted to master. Now, I am playing the ES series from Sawtooth Guitars, and I started to do this, but now that I can read all the comments again, I kind of digress enough. Now I've got my overdrive on the clean sound. But this guitar is really awesome. What we've done is it's a true hybrid guitar. You have 3 single coil pickups in a Strat configuration, and between them you have 2 humbuckers. Now what we did was, the single coils are much softer than a humbucker, and also they create hum, but modern amps and all that, we can eliminate a lot of that stuff. And so when I talk to people about doing this before, thinking about it, oh, it can't be done, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, why? At Sawtooth, we said, well, what can be done? And we pulled it off. This guitar has a lot of sounds. I'm going to just show you how many. This guitar is very easy to use. You have 2 pickup selectors here that would be the equivalent. Watch, this is a 5 position because it's a Strat sound. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have 5 here. Flip it to the humbucker. 1, 2, 3. So that's 8. Now 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. You have 23 different unique sounds in this guitar. And it's so easy to use. And it's got a real Floyd Rose. I mean, you can do the death like... So you get the death dive bombers. I love dive bombs. Yes! Kill, maim, destroy! I also, my whole life, I used to never try to show emotion when I played. So I would be like... And then all of a sudden YouTube comes along and they go, dude, he's got like no emotion, man. He plays like a machine, dude. You don't even show no expressions in his face. Watch the original Sweet Kill Sound. Like, I thought it was stupid. I thought people that played wah pedals going, they look like fish. They look like the general in the first Star Wars movie. We cannot repel power of this magnitude. And so I thought this was stupid. And so I was always Mr. Straightface. So people said, oh, dude, he's got no feeling, man. You don't see in his face, bro. B.B. King's got like feeling because you can see his face. So I did a video online. I went... So I over-exaggerated the facial expressions, but I didn't play any differently. People are like, dude, what's wrong with you, man? Are you having like a seizure, bro? So you can't win. You cannot win. So you either play with feeling, go, or go. Either way, someone is going to say, you don't have any feeling, or dude, you like taking a dump, bro? So it just gets so over the top that I realize I just do what I do anyway, which is where I started in the first place. And so the moral of this story is, do what you want, but know what you're doing. And that's where I come in. I'm trying to help you know what you are doing. Just like facial expressions. Are you making a lot? Are you making too many? What is the crowd reaction from it? So I find I just put the facial reaction, and sometimes like I love the head bang. So but I just do what I want to do. And I realized that having no facial expressions, people were right. The comments were correct. I should put more into it because I purposely did not want to show feeling in my face. I thought you could hear the feeling on a guitar. But then I also realized that if you show more emotion, that it does express the music a little better because people hear with their eyes a lot of times. Now, with this guitar, with these 23 sounds, and then I'm going to show a couple exercises from Sawtooth. It's this amazing array of tones that you can't get on any other guitar. Now, what we did is to make it a true hybrid, and I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. We kept the integrity of the single coil pickup output versus the humbucker pickup output. And what do I mean by that? Single coils are inherently a lower volume. They just are, and they hum. Humbucker, they put two, it's a noise canceling pickup. That was the whole idea behind a humbucker pickup, that it canceled noise because, once we got high gain amps and distortion, and, you could put a fuzz box back in the old days, or an overdriver is what I use now. I don't use distortion pedals. I've never liked them. I don't want to distort. I want to overdrive my original signal. And so, once people started hearing the excessive amount of noise that single coils would do, for example, old Cobalt pickups that they had, those were really, really noisy. When they developed the humbucker in the late 50s, it changed the game because it just was so quiet. And it's louder. It's inherently louder than a single coil. So we had a choice. We either raised the volume of the single coils and lowered the volume of the humbuckers, one or the other, to equal the volume difference, or we left it alone. And so our option was to leave it alone. Now see, I have compression. And when you use compression, what compression does is it takes your highest peak, loudest note and brings it down. But it also takes your low notes and brings them up. It compresses your sound so that your bandwidth starting here from low to high is compressed to be like this. Now limiting is something different. When people master digital recordings, they use limiters, because if you ever watch a waveform and from a band, unlimited, you're going to see a snare drum. You watch a waveform like this, it looks like a Tootsie Roll until the snare hits. And the snare, 99.99% of the time, is the thing that blasts your mix into oblivion. It will bring, in other words, to accommodate the snare drum not going over digital zero, because one thing in digital music, there's a peak where it's like a wall. If you break through that wall, it's just digital distortion. So you try now, it goes a little over digital zero. You can maybe do 1 or 2 dB above it, but realistically, you don't want to enter that threshold. So what they developed was limiting to take that massive, because say your snare is super loud, you're playing with a great drummer and their snare is really loud. So you're watching this mix. It means if you leave it like that, your mix is much softer because you have to base the loudness of your mix on your snare. If you limit it, you bring that snare down, bring everything else up. So now that snare hits a threshold. It cannot go louder than this. So that means you can bring your mix so much louder. But that's not relating to guitar. Compression and limiting are two different things. What we use is compression. And compression is a gives that kind of twang to it. Now I use, believe it or not, the bridge position of the humbucker. If you add the strat, I have done record quality version songs. I've recorded songs with this exact guitar. This ES, this Strat sound is identical to a normal Strat sound. But when you add the humbucker sound, watch. Did you hear how much girth that added? Here's Strat. So you get the twang of the Strat and the balls of the humbucker. It's a totally different sound. And what I like to do is this. My go-to setting on the ES or the ET, which I talked about last week, is I keep the humbucker on the bridge position, the single coil on the neck position. And I can use this switch. It's so easy to use these guitars. These are single coil, both together, humbucker. And then you have the individual toggle switches, just like a normal. This is a 5 position for the single coil and a 3 position for the humbuckers. But I love these sounds. What? See, because here I have in the middle position, but you hear a lot of the neck position, but it's supported by the girth of that humbucker in the bridge. Somebody just wrote, guitar is the greatest instrument in the world. And I will say that. Now, I have a prejudice because I love guitar, but look what's going on today in guitar. When you think about, I remember when I was going to school, and in the 1700s, in Mozart's era, Mozart and Haydn, the classic era, there are critics. There were over 10,000 symphonies that had been written at that time. 10,000. And now the world population was much less than what it is today. And we're only talking about Europe. And so because, how did people back then know about the Americas? They really didn't. And they knew, but not a lot. We had people here in the United States, or what became the United States. But at that time, it was just wilderness. So we're talking just Europe, 10,000 symphonies at a fraction of the population. So it was a massive amount in a ratio to how many people there were. And critics used to say, everything in music that can be done has already been done. We're talking the early 1700s. Really? And when you think of guitar, there is no instrument like it. The pick that you use, now I use ChromaCast MAB picks. They are like jazz picks, very pointed and thick, and I just love them. And so depending on what pick you use, depending on what string gauge you use, depending on what pickups you use, what wood, it's all unique to you. That's why the guitar in totality is the most popular instrument in the world. We added over 12 million new guitar players during COVID. And it's not just because people couldn't do shows, which I'm one of them. By the way, I'm touring Europe starting March 22nd or 23rd next year for almost 6 weeks. It's been confirmed. Finally, I'll get to tour again. But the guitar is the absolute most expressive instrument that has ever been created. You can play it acoustically. You can play it electrically. Look at some of these young guitar players that are using acoustic guitar as a percussive instrument, playing counterpoint, playing all these amazing things. Or electric guitar players like, how about Tim Henson from Polyphia? What he's doing was unheard of in the 80s. And so guitar just keeps progressing and people find new ways to express themselves. But the one thing doesn't change. Human hands have not changed much in the last couple centuries, and the techniques don't really change. What changes is people's ability to express themselves creatively on an instrument. And the guitar, by far, has gone leaps and bounds over any other instrument creatively on this planet. For example, violin. You can't change the sound of a normal violin. The only difference is your skill level. Take a piano. Okay, why it's really called a pianoforte, piano meaning soft, forte meaning loud. Okay, why do so many great keyboard players exist? And it's because they love the sound of a piano, just like me. But The only thing you cannot, if I hit a middle C going, and Joey goes, I'm going to make this note. I'm going to own this note. This note is mine. If you do that, I cannot sound any different than Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater, Derek Sherinian, Keith Emerson, or let's take some great, McCoy Tyner. Okay, so I cannot make that note sound any different than anyone else. The tone is the tone. But, so what does that separate? Skill level. So the majority of instruments on this planet, you cannot really change the sound. The only thing that changes is your skill level. And so McCoy Tyner, I know his piano playing because the way he hits it is so percussive. But it doesn't change really the sound. It's like it's in his fingers. Just like guitar playing is, Eddie Van Halen could have picked up any guitar rig and sounded like Eddie. When I play, I just sound like me. It's in my fingers, yes, but it's also the guitar itself. There are so many variables on a guitar that make it so expressive. That's why it is the #1 best-selling instrument on the planet, acoustic and electric combined, and so many millions of new guitar players, especially girls. And the thing that has leveled the playing field is in orchestral music. Again, this is why Speed Kills works. I based my methodology on orchestral music. I said there was a lot of people born before me that were really incredibly smart, and they produced some of the highest music that's ever been written on this and performed on this planet. It doesn't really get on a higher level than Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, the Beatles. I'll even add the Stones to that. The way Keith Richards plays, Honky Tonk Women, that funky, it's a high level, okay? But also too, you can add Jimi Hendrix to that as sound, not so much technique, or Keith Richards is not technique. But think about why can Joe Pass could have played one way, did play one way, and Keith Richards play another way, or Hendrix, and it's all one instrument, or Les Paul, or Django Reinhardt. There are so many, or Andre Segovia on a classical guitar. No other instrument has this kind of variation of sound. And then what we did at Sawtooth, we made an electric guitar that has more variations and pickup sounds than you could ever possibly imagine. And what I do is, like I said, you can keep this in the middle position. So I have this in the bridge position, this in the neck position, this in the bridge position. Listen how thick it is. But if I did this, that's just the single coil with overdrive. But see, this adds a little bit of that bridge. It's almost got like a mid-range honky sound to it. I love it. And then I have both bridge position pickups on. See, I love to keep this in the middle position because it has sounds that you just can't duplicate unless you have this guitar. I can do this. Okay, now let's see. Gauge strings, it's about the action. Oh, somebody mentioned, I'm looking at comments here. I like to use 9 to 42 gauge strings, And the reason I like to use them is because, I mean, look at Yngwie, he uses 8s. I think you get a very expressive vibrato, like, and by using 9s. And I've actually used 9s tuned down an entire step. And I've had no problem with it if you have a good guitar. But I like 9s. I don't like too heavy of a gauge string. And I think that I like the tone of it. It's a little brighter sound. Somebody asked about the neck profile too. It's a combination. I like a combination of a C and a D. And what I mean by that, a C neck would literally be like this, whereas a D is like this, more like a classical. I like a combination of the two. But one of the things that I love about Sawtooth guitars, and somebody brought this to my attention, you know, a lot of people love jumbo frets, the 6100 series by Dunlap. But here's what happens. When you have these big jumbo frets, if you press down too hard, it goes grossly out of tune because you've got a lot of fret to use. These are Sawtooth designed, and we are the only company that has these. They are medium jumbo frets. So see, I can press down really hard, but I can't really get it to go that sharp because there's not quite as much fret. So if you are a purist and you use these normal frets that you see on, you know, standard guitars, you're going to love the way this feels. If you are a person that used jumbo frets like I did for many years, this is not a big leap of faith. It's very comfortable. Now also too, I have beat the heck out of this guitar. I mean, I have showed it no mercy. And it's still in tune. It's still in great tune. And that's because it's got a beautiful Floyd Rose trumpet. Now also too, when we're going to, you know, we use Wilkinson trems. You know, not everybody loves a locking Floyd Rose. I happen to love them. And, you know, there's no, you know, secret when you think about Steve Vai or Joe Satriani or the John Petrucci's or myself. We get this certain tight kind of sound that's not really available when you don't use a locking trem. Because think about it, you have a non-locking trem, you have at least this much extra of string gauge that is applied to the sound. And so you get more string length. It creates like a more open sound, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to play metal precisely, so precisely, and get a really tight, crunchy metal sound, I prefer the locking Floyd Rose because it just tightens it up. And also, it creates it's why I use the Floyds on my double guitars. It's a proven method. Floyd Roses work great, and they just do something. They add this tightness to the tone because you are locking it here, you are locking it here. So your tone is right here. Now, granted, yeah, you might have a little extra here, but you also have these tuning keys can go out of tune. They can do a lot of things where the Floyd Rose stops a lot of it. It's like the brick wall or the cement wall. It's like it slams it shut once you tune it up, and it works good. Now, somebody mentioned Yngwie, which I thought they would. You got to ask yourself, do you love his rhythm sound? Not talking, do you think his rhythm sound is super tight? It's super tight and amazing, like where it would fit into a Metallica or a Dream Theater. I love Yngwie. I love his newest album. I was at his very first show ever in the United States, so I'm a fan. But it's not a sound. Now, I love his vibrato, too. I mean, it's amazing. It sings. But we're talking rhythm guitar sound, the tightness of the sound. He has a different sound. So if you like it, go with it. But I love this sound. Somebody said it's different from contemporary metal rhythm sounds. Exactly. And one of the reasons is a bridge. The bridge has a lot to do with it because, you know, anybody can go. In fact, I like to practice. know, people say, when I did my Metallica version, dude, play down short. Why? I can play it faster the way I play it. And so the point is this. I just love the sound of this locking drum system. But I also love the different sounds that I can get out of this hybrid. And it's very evident in the studio. You know, when I'm playing here, you can almost, unless it's on a clean sound, it's hard to pick up. Watch. See, hear the girth added? Watch. See, that's just the single coil in the neck position. See, now I added the second humbucker in the bridge position. It just adds this extra low end, but it's almost like a mid-range. Here's just single coil. See, but then you hear underneath when I add that humbucker, it's this low end that just creeps in. But it doesn't change the tone. It just adds low end girth. And it's something you can't get on another guitar. And these are available now, 30% off. Now, I'm going to end this live stream talking a little bit about what Speed Kills has done. Speed Kills, when I say I'm going to give you the keys to the Lamborghini. Now, granted, I don't look the same, but I am the same. I think I look like a good version of my younger self. That's all I want to do. I can't go back to that time. But I can say this. I practice what I teach. Those exercises are every bit as, I'm telling you, 100 years from now, people will look back on Speed Kills and say, it stood the test of time, that Angelo was right. Angelo Batio was correct. My methodology works because I didn't think that I was so arrogant that I know everything. I deferred to people from the past that were experts at what they did, and I asked myself, how did they teach the greatest pianists of their time? How did people in the past learn this amazing technique like the Paganinis, the Mozarts, the Bachs, the Beethovens, the Schoenbergs, the Cernys, the Shostakoviches, you know, the Debussys? How did they, Schubert, Schumann, I mean, I can go on. I studied all these composers. How did they learn? And they learned in the same way that I can show you on Speed Kills. They took a multi-directional approach. One, separate the techniques. Two, play short exercises focusing on the specific technique. This is all in Speed Kills. 3, once you have mastered that technique, and even when you haven't mastered that technique, when you're conscious of it in your brain, then you can start applying that to music. See, so when I hear guitar teachers say, well, you know, I always do this applying to music. Well, I agree with them. I completely agree. But that's a step ahead of what Speed Kills talks about. You need to really dial in on the technique, and your mind will start to, you use what you know. You know, and if you know something and you feel good about it, you're going to start using it. You work on the technique separately and together, but you have to work on them separately. Speed Kills is the Shred Bible. It shows all these different techniques, and even, for example, like Paul Gilbert popularized that, those string skipping arpeggios. That was really cool. Look. Major, minor. But he also did this, which was my riff. And so I was the one who put it on the video first. But you know, it doesn't really matter. What matters is this, that you learn something from this. So when I showed things, for example, how to play an arpeggio like this, how to play it like this, how to play it like this, how to play it like this. One arpeggio, one E minor, but I showed it all these different ways. It's all on Speed Kills. Then what I did is I elaborated on that. But if you think of technique, it's kind of like when athletes say, one game at a time, bro, or broette. I don't want to say dude or dudette, but I do. Dude, one game at a time, dude. But people don't really say dude as much. So it's like bro, like one game at a time. Well, how about broette? That's my new word for today. Broette, bro, broette. And so one game at a time, bro or broette. And so, but it's true in music too. It's like when I wanted to learn Bach 2 and 3 part inventions and practice any kind of classical piece on piano or even guitar, I learned it one measure at a time. Because you find just work, if a song is, let's say 100 measures, and you work on 3-4 a day, you're going to get it, in a month. And so, what's so bad about that? What's so bad about you take it a step at a time? That's what Speed Kills is about. Doug Marks, who's a great friend of mine, but I also respect him. Like he's delivered some of the absolutely greatest guitar instructional programs that are on this planet. Again, his programs, like mine, stand the test of time. But he reduces it to its simplest component that can help you be better. Because if you reduce it to something small, it's not such a daunting task to take it a measure at a time. When you look at a piece and it's in totality, you're like, dude, this is like, whoa. Well, turn whoa into one measure at a time. That's how I've done it. That's how the classical masters did it many centuries before any of us that are watching this have been born. That's how it's done. That's how the greatest musicians that have ever lived on this planet. See, because Mozart in any generation would be amazing. If we were able to bring Johann Sebastian Bach into 2021 and have him sit at an organ and play, he would blow our minds. He could play any Dream Theater song, anything on the internet from the most outrageous keyboard players because he was that good. Same with Paganini. The skill level of musicians has not changed that much on the uppermost incredible level over the centuries. But with guitar, the means of expression keep evolving. And so we have this great instrument that just keeps evolving with expressions, how we want to interpret what we do, how we want to show, how we want to play. But the thing that doesn't change is the technique to get you there. And that's what Speed Kills and all these programs are like. I can't say enough about Sawtooth Guitars. I always talk about them. I love the company. I love the people involved. I have to believe in something before I can talk about it. And I think people who know me know this. When I play in concert, I play the stock models. They have also things called an Americana where you can upgrade things, but that's involved with the company itself. Also, they make a left-handed version of almost every one of their models. What other guitar company does that? You get more value for the money than any other company on this planet, and you can get the left-handed version. They're a great company. They have their own app. And I work with great people. I work with Metal Method. I work with Sawtooth. Work with ChromaCast, GoDps, part of the same companies. And GoDps, we have an app. We have a lot of video content on there. We've got some great new bands like Liliac. Even the guitarist from Kenny Loggins plays Sawtooth. And so there's all these great musicians that are affiliated with the company. Rudy Sarzo, from Ozzy, Quiet Riot, Whitesnake on bass. Vinny Appice, his first job was with John Lennon. He went on to play Holy Diver with Dio, Heaven and Hell with Black Sabbath. He's the guy that played on those albums. He's with Sawtooth too. People of that caliber can be with anybody, just like me. I chose Sawtooth because I love what they do. I like why they do it. Millions of guitar players, literally 12 million new guitar players, have been added to the ranks of guitar players in the last couple of years. Sawtooth wants to show that if you don't have a lot of money, you can get a great guitar for the price, or a great set of drums, or a great bass. So anyway, also check out Metal Method, metalmethod.com. Check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot of content on there. Check out the GoDpsMusic Live app. And all I can say is this, that I love doing these live streams, and every week's a different story. And sometimes I'll talk about arpeggios, but they need to be talked about all the time. They need to be reinforced constantly. As much as I know about guitar, if I don't play for 3 months, I have to, it's not like I have to start from square one, and I've never stopped playing for 3 months, but you lose what you don't use. So I'm telling you, I'm forcing you to use it. I'm Michelangelo Batio. See ya.